I've thought like 8 different ways to start this video, and I'm just going to start with hello there. This is 10-minute talks where I talk for 10 minutes and post whatever's usable. I want to talk about challenging media and why we don't see a lot of it. I want to preface this with challenging media exists. It's out there. We don't interact with it, often because it is so hard to find. Initially, this video was going to be why challenging media is rare, right? Because people are always looking for something new, something different, something interesting, so different from the slop, so to speak, to everything that they're used to how one thing was novel and it was milked to death. People want new things. People want to feel the way that they felt when that novel thing wasn't already dry and pulled away, right? People want to feel novel. And they find novelty in very niche, small places. And they ask, why isn't this everywhere? An incredible use of platforming other people, of bringing up unpopular media and giving it a platform is Shindigs, the channel on both Twitter and YouTube and Twitch. They are an OBS artist, and I say this with little exaggeration, because the way that they build their overlay to make it incredibly interactive is fantastic. They bring up people like, oh, this person has a 90s retro overlay. They have people who make themselves up as though the bright, flashy, glam glitch hop of really early internet web pages, right? MySpaces, etc. They platform people with setups that are entirely built in game engines, built in Unity. VTubers who control their character off of sound input and a controller. Isn't that interesting? And when people look at Shindigs, and people look at Shindigs and the people that they platform, people are like, oh, why isn't this all of VTubing? Why don't we see more interesting, different, diverse faces in VTubing? Come here, study buddy. It's because it is an effort. It is an agenda to express diversity. Once people get comfortable, they stay comfortable. Right? If you ask yourself why there's no new, interesting, or diverse media, it's not because it isn't there. It is because it is unpopular. If we dig hard enough to find it, we will. There are channels like Shindigs who platform small creators, but YouTube is good at sharing media that should entertain your interests. And if they're showing you a video with less than 100 views that YouTube sees has value in it, you could click it and you might see something new and interesting, something you might fall in love with. But it's not there, right? There are tons of them out there. It just so happens that the popular ones, the ones that are so embraced by society, tend to be shown off more. They've demonstrated their worth, their value to the algorithm, and therefore they're pushed more, whether they have value still. Not to go after some of the big YouTube dogs right now, but someone who comes to mind is, as well as these two names, especially if you don't know one of them and don't look up the other. I don't want to say soapboxers, because I'm a soapboxer. They are both YouTube commentary channels, and this is not an endorsement of either of them. When I see the meteoric rise, the comet-like rise, it's become a dramatic rise. When I see that, I'm reminded that saying things that everyone already believes in pushes you. Sticking to unoffensive, centrist points, with the exception of certain points that signal that you are an ally of one way or the other. Saying things that everyone believes is already true, but like a hidden truth, a truth that nobody believes in anymore, or a truth that people have forgotten, or a truth that is so prevalent, it's crazy that people haven't made the mental walk around to get there. I see these people who parrot these points of view, and they get really big off of it, especially in the drama cycle, especially when somebody makes a very loud, visible mistake, and all we can do is continue parroting that mistake. It's the right thing to believe, quote unquote. It is the correct thing to believe. More people believe it than not, and it is a safe thing to say. And because of that, that content gets pushed and becomes overpopular and then saturates. And the people aren't left challenged because people don't want challenging media. They don't. You come home from a hard day of work, you push yourself so much, and you come home to what? A feed that hurts you? No, you want to feel righteous. You want to feel good. You want to feel strong. And in doing so, you seek out media that only affirms your beliefs. And that's a problem for me too. I don't think I'm particularly challenging myself. I think everything I've said right now, if you've been nodding onto it, that's because it's pretty common a belief. Creators will say things that aren't particularly new or interesting or nuanced but get a lot of views. And it becomes a popularity contest. Saying popular things when you have clout gets you paraded whether you deserve it or not. And when people go like, why doesn't this have any views? Well, as slightly condescending as it is, When people ask, what happened to all of the biting, strong commentary? Why don't they have many views? It's because challenge is now niche. Challenge is niche now. This is where the idea of the grifter comes up on Twitter and on YouTube, where it's primarily people who say very common truths, presented as though it's the underdog and a controversial point. And in doing that, they get a whole bunch of people who want to feel like they're on the front lines fighting. They say something that a lot of people, or maybe everyone, believes in, but says that, can you believe that people are telling us that this isn't true? And because they do that, they get so many views. If you want challenging media, I think YouTube, Twitter isn't the right place for it. I have a chatter in my streams who primarily, for fun, watches European, Japanese, and North African films. They're a big film buff, and they'll watch stuff that does not make sense just to figure it out. And they are one of the wisest people in my chat. Or rather, smartest. I think there's an amendment to be made between smart and wise. But they're very, very smart. They're very, very interesting. They have a lot of things to say. And it's because they challenge themselves. They find challenging media. They look out for it. They are a spelunker. They are a curator. It's why channels like Daily Memes or Daily Dose of Internet are so important, because they allow us to see what we otherwise would not have. But to that degree, speaking to that, it still means that the onus of finding the challenging media is always going to be on you, right? It's never going to be on the internet. It's never going to be on the algorithm, because they'll only push what's popular. If you want something that excites you, something that interests you, something that scratches you, something that you want to scratch back at, you have to find it yourself. And I understand that because the internet is built to take care of us nowadays, between the TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter algorithms, it's built to give us what we want. I think it's an underdeveloped skill to find what you want. Ask yourself, what do you want? Ding, 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 10 minutes.